I'm Rob Skinner, and this is the Rob Skinner Podcast. Today I'm talking to Nick Kaplan, recent University of Arizona graduate and now missionary to Hungary. Find out more on this episode of the Rob Skinner Podcast. Welcome back to the Rob Skinner Podcast. My goal is to inspire you to live a no regrets life, make this life count, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Nick, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Nick, what inspired you to go on mission?
Yeah, I think my journey of ending up on mission was really that I really felt called by God to come. I'd heard of the Revive Eastern Europe program, and it kind of had been something I maybe had started toying with about a year ago. The idea had been in my brain, but I really just hadn't been super seriously considering it. It had just been like one of many options. And I think around maybe March, I think you actually approached me with the idea of maybe really seriously considering kind of coming and spending a year of my life in Eastern Europe and really just serving kind of as a full-time missionary here. And I mean, I was praying about it and considering it, but I didn't really feel called in that to go. And I think about a month went by and I saw a video that Revive put out, basically saying that they were 4 guys short for this upcoming year. And kind of after I watched that video, I just prayed like, God, if this is really what you want me to do, I need you to make it crystal clear to me. Like, I'm not going to do this if it's not crystal clear. And so I prayed that prayer on Friday. And Sunday morning, I watched the YouTube version of the church I grew up going to service in Northern Virginia. And I did that maybe twice a semester. This is not a very common thing I would do. And that sermon was on Matthew 28 and Mark 1. And as I'm thinking about kind of going to Europe, that was just a really just like powerful and striking message for me. But it still wasn't I'm definitely going. I was like, God, I need it to be even more clear. And so then I go to church in Tucson that afternoon, and we had a guest speaker that week, and he preached on Matthew 28 and Mark 1. And the first scripture, I was like, okay, this is kind of crazy. But after he used like the second one, I'm just sitting there going, there's no more, God cannot make this any more clear to me than he has. This is as clear as God is going to make it. And I think after that, I was reading in Mark 1, and I think the ESV version. And in that version, it says that like if Jesus goes to them and says, come follow me and I will make you become fishers of men. And I think just something about that phrasing of like, I will make you become this, I think really just stuck with me and was just made me go, I really just want to become this thing. And yes, I've shared my faith on campus. I've been in Bible studies, but I don't really know if this is like my core identity. And I feel like that phrasing of make you become is like almost like identity language. Like this is who you will be.
That's awesome.
And so as I read that, I was like, I think I really want to go. And one of the craziest like stories from that is that my very first night in Budapest, I was talking to kind of one of the older married guys on the team who's done Revive for a few years. I was sharing all of this with him. And kind of after I shared him all this processing, he just kind of looks at me with a little look in his eye. And he just looks to me and he says, Nick, all of us were praying for you. Like the entire team was praying for just like a couple more guys. And I was like one of those guys. And there was just like this whole host of prayers that were just there that God was using to like change my heart.
That's awesome.
That's kind of sporadic.
Well, there's a lot of countries in Eastern Europe. How'd you end up in Hungary?
Yeah. So the kind of goal of Revive is to kind of first go to the cities where we have existing churches, really just help pour into them and support them. So there's currently 6 countries in Eastern Europe that have just no ministry staff whatsoever, and an additional 6 countries that we don't even have any churches in. Kind of first going to the places that we have churches just to build them up and support them. So kind of Hungary and Budapest was one of those churches that Revive was kind of going to, and that was kind of where I got asked to go, and so I said yes. So now I'm here.
Okay, so since arriving, how have you seen God work specifically? Where have you seen his footprints? Like, I think it's great. You go out there. Sometimes people go on like short-term missions. They help build a house or something like that. But sometimes it seems like it's lacking in spiritual impact. You've been there probably, I guess, 3 or 4 months now. Where have you seen God working?
Yeah. I mean, I think first and foremost, I think just with the existing disciples, and kind of here we have a combined, I would say, like team ministry, campus ministry, GoPro group. And I think just since being here, it's just been so inspiring for me to see how just zealous and fired up for God they are. And I think it's been really cool seeing just, especially after we've come, just how much they're pulling in their friends from school, the people they know. And actually, right before this call, it was really just encouraging because I got a text from actually a visitor who one of the disciples in the ministry invited from their gym. And the visitor put in kind of our group chat, "Hey, I'm bringing my friend to your Bible." And so not just do we have visitors, we have visitors who are bringing visitors, which to me has just been so inspiring. And I think it's just been just incredible seeing God's faithfulness just in our just times of reaching out to people. I think just cold contact evangelism, sometimes get called, I think can be just very intimidating to people. But I think there was one moment that for me was just a moment where I was just very burnt out, and I was kind of, I think I was sharing about myself. I think a lot of the other people were in studies, and there was just like this guy walking towards me, and kind of whatever my like mental archetype of a quote unquote like open person is, this guy was not like my mental vision of an open person. And I almost walked past him. And the very last minute, I was like, no, I need to go share with him. So I had like swerved back to talk to him. And he ends up being one of the most open people that I've shared with in my entire time here. And he's come out to church. He's come out to our Bible discussions. We're about halfway through the Bible studies with him. And it's just been so encouraging to see this moment where like I wasn't even fully faithful, that like God was still faithful. And it's just been working in his life. The one other quick story I will share is there was another point in time I was actually on the same university's campus, and it gets dark really early here, far earlier than it did in Tucson, where I've been for the last 3 years. And it was raining, and I was cold. I was a little bit wet. And I just kind of randomly prayed this prayer of, God, I just want someone who's glowing. I need someone who's glowing. I need something like bright in my life right now. And I had no idea what I meant when I prayed that prayer. I'm just like, I don't know what glowing means. I just need something bright. And about 2 minutes later, there's this guy who's walking towards me, and in his hair, he's like pretty long hair, and it's just dyed a bright red. And so I go, if this person is not glowing, I don't know who is. And so I walked up to him and I was like, hey, I kind of give my usual spiel of, are you interested in learning more about God, growing in faith? And he just goes like, yes, like tomorrow or next week. I mean, it was just like immediately open. And so we've done 1 or 2 Bible studies with him. He's come out for a Bible talk. He's coming out, I think, again tomorrow night. And so I think for me, just those stories like that where I go, like just to see God answer a prayer just immediately, I think was just so inspiring.
It's really cool the specific prayers you prayed and God answering. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Okay. On the flip side, what's been most challenging for you coming from the States to Hungary? What's been difficult?
Yeah, I mean, kind of Central Eastern Europe is just a totally different just way of life and lifestyle from what I'm used to in the States. kind of in the States, everywhere I went, I would go in a car. I no longer have a car. I go everywhere by foot and public transportation. And there is a very real challenge of living somewhere where you don't speak the dominant language. And I think I'm blessed to be in a city where I think most people do speak English, but there is definitely still that language barrier where even if people know English, it is their second language or maybe their third language. And I think, and even just like the size of grocery stores, I'm used to Costco where I can buy two massive things of peanut butter. And here it's just a small little jar. I can't get the quantities and sizes I'm used to. And so I think there's definitely an adjustment to a different comfort level that just happens when you go into a culture that is not the one that you are used to and used to navigating. But I think for me, despite that challenge and that difficulty, it's been just really helpful to just really just ground me in God, because I think it's really forced me to really be reliant on Him and not just my habit or my.
So I've heard Hungarian is one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult language to learn. Are you making any attempt to learn the language?
Again, that means yes. I probably have about 10 to 15 words in Hungarian. From what I've heard, it's the second most difficult language after Chinese. I'm trying to put in some time into learning it. It's hard when everyone here speaks English. Even if they don't speak it great, it's still better than probably the Hungarian I can master after 3 years of trying. So I am trying a little bit.
What are the people like? What are the people like around you? What's your impression, just initial impression of the average Hungarian person?
Yeah. I think obviously kind of the work we're doing is a lot of people kind of around my age, people who are kind of in that kind of 18 to 25 age range. But I think overall, I think Hungarians are just very hospitable, and they've been very, very warm. I think one of the cool things that I know I felt here, and I've heard people even in other cities share, is just how willing to have a conversation so many people are. And I remember there would be times even in the States when I would go just out sharing my faith and people would walk away immediately. And maybe that happens every now and then here, but there have definitely been days where I'm out just sharing my faith and I'm just so encouraged, even if you aren't open, that they're just willing to talk and they're just open to that first conversation, and they're willing to have that slower pace of life. I think
Wow.
just especially in the church, that people are very hospitable. We've just been invited over for dinners, and it's just been so encouraging.
When you walk into a Sunday worship service, like what's it like? Paint the picture for a person who's maybe coming from a different country. Size, feel, vibe, smell. What's it like?
Yeah, so I would say about you kind of walk into a room, and we meet in a combined conference center mall. So you kind of walk through the food court into the conference center room we meet in, and I think you see really people of all ages. I mean, I think definitely most of it is obviously people are talking in Hungarian, but I think one of the really encouraging things is usually the moment I walk up to a group of people, they'll almost always immediately switch to English just so I can kind of understand the conversation that's being had. And it's really cool just having again, a group of maybe about 20 or so kind of disciples who are kind of between the ages of maybe 16 and 25. And so there's definitely, the church is definitely kind of maybe majority over the age of 45, but there really is just a strong youth culture in the church. And maybe one of the coolest things here is not actually the service, but it's after the service. And again, we meet right next to a food court, and kind of right after service ends, like the entire like next gen ministry just goes and just takes over one of the tables of the food court. And they'll be there for 2 or 3 hours just eating and fellowshipping after service. For me, I'm used to like, okay, maybe I'm there for a half hour and maybe I go and get food for another half hour. But I was just challenged by the amount that just the group of people was willing to just fellowship.
That's awesome. Knowing what you know now, after having been there 3 or 4 months, would you do it again?
Yeah, I think I would, and especially if I went back to that version of me who is considering it. I think just it's been so transformational by faith. I think I feel like I have a front row seat to just seeing God work, which has just been it's incredibly just inspiring, faith building for me. And I think
That's
seeing
awesome.
the tangible impact that we get to see is so encouraging.
For a person who's listening, what advice would you give them if they're considering doing missionary work?
Yeah, I think my advice would be to go in faith. I think for a lot of people, it's really easy to look at just the logistics and the why nots to go. And some of the people on the team who are the most inspiring to me are the people who've taken the even breaks in their careers. There's one sister here in Budapest. She's about 30 and she sold her house and took a year out of her career to come just serve here. And she kind of had every reason to not come. She was established in her career. She had a home, but she was willing to come. I think second, just kind of do what you are, give what you are able to give. And there are the people who go over for years and years. There's the people who go over for 10 months on something like Revive. But we actually had a sister on the team who kind of was able to come for a few months. And so she came and she gave her heart for the like 2 or 3 months that she was able to be here. And she's had an incredible impact just on this group of people. And there are people who are studying the Bible who she reached out to. There are people in the ministry who were just so encouraged by her. And even though, yeah, she maybe wasn't able to spend as long here as others, just her impact was just incredible.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I really respect the fact that you graduated from a great university, University of Arizona, but then just took a step out for a year. I mean, when I brought it up to you, I thought, this would be great for you, but it is a sacrifice because you delay entry into the workforce. But I've never seen a person do that who later regrets it. I think it's a great decision. Nick, thank you so much for your work. Thanks for showing up on my program and giving me a missionary update. Please give big hugs to the disciples out there in Hungary, and all the best to you going forward.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the program. Here's how you can help support the program. First of all, tell your friends about it. Let people know about it. Secondly, read my latest book, The 10X Christian. You can find that on my website, robskinner.com or amazon.com, because my goal is to inspire you to live a no regrets life, make this life count, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Have a great day and make this life count.